name is Teresita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and today we're reading Saturnastra Nalini. This is chapter 7, part 1. Shaking from head to toe, my brother was closer to me, and even though he was 3 years younger than Nalini, he towered a head over her. But then again with elves and the unnatural way that they expanded their lives, it was pretty hard to tell what was their real age in comparison to the natural age He had the good fortune to inherit his father's tallness, and when Danili stood before me, he patted my hands and shoulders as if trying to convince himself that I stood before him in the flesh, and he removed his shiny helmet to pass a hand over a sweaty forehead. Again he looked bewildered at me. With a trembling voice he asked, "Where have you been? We thought you were dead." "How long have I been gone?" I asked. This question left my brother even more puzzled. Eventually he said, "You have been gone for almost 2 years." For some reason I sensed Vaikus' silent laughter. He found it amusing how I had managed to shut away for so many years within his domain. When I looked better at the folds of my dress, I did notice that I was 5 centimeters taller, and I had to admit that I am truly self-centered. Then again, it also did not help that Nalini was of a petite variety. Had she had a faster growth rate, I would have probably noticed the passage of time around the 6 months at the very least. Nalini interrupted my thoughts by taking my hand. With a firm voice he said, "I have to take you to our father. He must be informed of your return." Danili literally dragged me towards the palace, and I felt Vaikus following swiftly behind. And like a shade, he flew silently over us, and Danili was far too focused on dragging me to the palace to notice the creature stalking us. And the silence grew around us, and like a fury, Vaikus' influence was spreading, and his shape changed to that of darkness, and he seemed far too interested in my brother, and judging by his blazing night eyes, and that it was possible that he was going to become his next meal. And I said to Vaikus with telepathy, "Please, you can eat him later, just don't make a scene." Again, and Vaikus took a respectable distance, and he changed his shape to that of a small child so that he could before diving into my shadow, and from his darkness, its glowing black eyes glowed eagerly, and my brother made his way through the line of soldiers, and Donani glanced up and he saw Danili holding my hand as he pushed through the crowd. Danili made a motion for the troops to make a pass for us, and then Danili pushed me towards my father and he said, "Look, father, she's alive. Nalini's still alive." "I can see that," said Odani coldly. "Troops, you are dismissed. Nalini, I wish to speak to you alone." Odani guided me to the audience hall, and I was just a few steps behind, and he stood before the portal behind him. And the two priestesses opened the door for him, and the locks gave way after the priestesses said a word of magic. It seemed that every portal was locked with bolt and magic, and after they opened the first portal, we followed behind, and each time we passed through a gate, the priestesses would lock the door behind us, and while walking I took time to admire the interior. The hallway was decorated with stained glass windows showing scenes from the forest. Time, bro?
11 minutes.
Over them there were 2 large round windows that were 2-story high. In every hallway we passed there was an unnecessary torches aglow. It seemed like the ideal home for somebody who was afraid of the dark. Odani stopped before a room, and he dismissed the priestesses. When they were gone, he opened the door himself, and the interior seemed like the perfect replica of his study, and he sat in his chair and he took a deep sigh. In a weird voice he said, "I thought you had left this world for good." "You surprised me, Odani," I said mockingly. "I remember," he said in a harsh tone. So you're one of the few primordial elves who remain," I said, trying to guess what he was. For being an experiment, you did not turn out half bad, and I am surprised you rejected the memory implant." "I didn't," he said, in a matter-of-fact sort of way, and I found his poker face unnerving. And he then added, "Yes, I did not reject the implant, or whatever it was was that you people did to me. No. I simply always had a certainty that the first 20 years of my life were all fake. Do you think us fool? No, we all knew, yet we chose to ignore it. And we chose to live by the traditions we created, not the ones that were given us. Watch it, mister. Mother went through a lot of trouble to recreate the culture of the primordial elves that used to live in Europe. Except for the 100 and the rest of except for the original 100, and the rest are replicas of the original, with a few minor tweaks here and there. But as clones, they still serve the original function. I said, musing to myself. Ah yes, the singing. How I loathe the pointless singing. As if the gods care that we sing or dance or beg for a few scraps of power. What do you have against singing? I mean, it is in your blood. I mean, their blood, the blood of your ancestor, that is. And if I remember correctly, it was your idea. I said, trying to poker face, as I tried to figure out who was he truly. You should be grateful that you elves got included in the mix. Then again, you can't have a fantasy world without a few pesky elves. You know, for antagonism purposes. I guess you do just fine. Tell me again, why are you here? He asked. 'Cause you wanted to speak with me, I said. I was under the impression that your mission was over. Isn't that why you left? He asked. Mission? What missions? I simply got dragged here to this world by my own stupid brother, and I don't really have any true purpose here. So, but I can't leave until he tells me that I'm supposed to leave, so I can't just pack up and go, and I'm just super bored most of the time trying to figure it out while I wait for him to finish whatever it is that he's supposed to do, while I just play the support role. Ah, your brother, you say. Is he, since he can't allow you to leave, what type of creature is he? I said, I don't know. He's just my brother. Seeing that I was not planning on explaining things any further, he turned his attention to the creature that was behind me. He almost didn't notice his presence. There was a quiet vibe about Vaikus, and those that did not know what to look for would rarely notice his presence. And the creature too noticed Danili, and they both looked at one another with the disdain of two predators. And for Danili, Vaikus was a test subject, and for Vaikus, Danili was simply brunch. Vaikus, however, refrained from attacking. He worried that Danili was going to be a little too tough for him to handle. He sniffed the air, and he gave Danili a sideways look, and he showed him his canine. Again, he sniffed the air, and suddenly his face became expressionless again, and his eyes lost some of their luster they had gained with the promise of a fresh kill. Something about Danili had killed Vaikus' appetite. Silently, Vaikus left our presence. What's with the demon, he asked. He's no demon, I think. I don't know. I simply personify his effects into a demon or a creature. Still, he would have become one with or without me naming him. I got bored of this inquisition. Must it always be you asking me pointless questions? I made a motion to rise, but Danili punched the table and made me stop. Had it been the true Nalini, she would have frozen on the spot. Sneering, I say, you forget that I am not myself. Or that is, that I am not the true Nalini. Well, I am in a sense. Just two souls in one body. And this time I call him by another name, Oberon. This was the first time he froze on the spot, and the sound of his true name brought back all of the previous memories. The pain and humiliations of millennia of suffering came back, and all the memories came rushing back to his head, and I tried in vain to steal his secrets. And like a madman, he pulled out his hair and he clawed at his face, while he yelled, "Get out of my head, you monster!" And I heard behind me a cynical laughter, and in a coquettish pose, I saw Nalini's mother biting her finger, trying to hold back her mirth. She walked across her room, and with her hands outstretched, she took the frightened Oberon in her hand, and he was still bent over, trying to bash his head against the floor in a vain attempt to fight off my telepathy. And she took his hands from his face, and at her touch his body went limp, and I was surprised at how easily she was able to hold him and keep him from falling. In a gentle voice she said, "What's the matter, honey?" He whispered feebly, "I remember something. Someone." "Hush, darling. I will make all of the bad thoughts go away," she said, kissing his forehead, and from her lips swept the sweet oblivion, and once again, Oberon became Odani. And in a nonchalant fashion, Nalini's mother allowed Odani's body to fall, and his head made a dull thud sound on the floor, and she sat on the table and she glanced at his slim frame, and blood was flowing from the open gash on his forehead, but she did not seem in a hurry to call for aid. When she glanced out, she became aware of my presence. Time?
4 minutes.
She rested her head on her hand, and she gave a deep sigh. Again in a soft whisper, she said, "It would be a sin to be so damn pretty." I took a step back, and my spirit called inside of me, retreating. Smiling again, Nalini's mother said, "Oh, worry not. I already had Nalini's first blood, and never before had I tasted an egg so sweet, and you, human girl, are of no consequence to me. Must I remind you of our non-aggression pact with your kind? Begone, I grow bored of looking at you." "Before I go, I must ask a favor," I said hesitantly. Licking her lips, she said, "It's going to cost you." On second thought, forget it. Mother warned me against speaking to true demons. "All right, take care of yourself. Bye." On that note, I closed the door behind me, and I started walking away from the study to get away from the real demon that was lurking within. And I wanted to put as much distance between myself and that demon. And I never would have imagined that Nalini had been the spawn of an elf that had been possessed by a demon. And close to the entrance of the castle, I saw Danili and several guards on patrol, and I decided against leaving through the front gate. And I found a dark corner by the window covered by curtains, and I hid behind the curtains and sat with my back against the wall. Time, bro?
2 minutes.
And by now it was midnight, and from time to time a dark cloud would cover the sky. And after an hour, a faint drizzle started falling, and a pale hand lifted the curtain. I saw Vaikus standing before him, and I hid my head on my knees, and I was not in the mood for putting out with demons or any other bizarre creatures. And Vaikus took notice that I wanted to be left alone. He let the curtain fall over me again, and departed silently out of the castle. And I began to ponder much on the event that had led me to come to this world. And I closed my eyes and I thought of home. And whenever I was sad or scared, I used to sit beside my father, clutching at his legs. And since I was a familiar presence, my father would not notice me. He simply would continue his work in utter serenity. But just being near him brought peace to my heart. And I felt safe knowing that if I called out his name, he would help me in my time of need. In the darkness I sighed, Proteus. When I awoke, it was already noon, and I could hear the vibrating music from the private mass. And as usual, Grimir was leading the ceremony. Time, bro?
1 minute, 30 seconds.
I lifted the curtain to get a better look over the event. Grimir had an empty, detached look, and he did everything mechanically. And Master Magic's chagrin, he was using my special robes as a cape, and from time to time he would put his hand on my robes and think of Nalini. The sentimental fool, I thought. Smirking, I realized that no one had ever bothered to tell him of my return, and I took a deep pleasure in seeing him submersible. And I decided to mess with him, and rubbing the side of my head, I said to him with telepathy, "Grimir, avenge me."
Why is she doing that to him?
She's just there. Isn't it awesome? Nalini is like a terrible human being. Since I spoke into his mind, he could not find the source of my voice, and much to my surprise, he went through the ceremony undisturbed. This made me realize that he must hear Nalini's voice on a regular basis. His madness was truly pathetic. Silly child, why pretend you don't care? I placed my hand over my heart and I asked, "Nalini, is that you?" Alas, we finally have become two different beings. Possession is such a troubling thing. We said in unison. Like the soul of the chick,
17 seconds.
woke up.